Hi there. Welcome to the Imperfect Prophet podcast for women who wonder. Frankly, as we go through life, I'm sure we wonder about a great deal. First as little kids, then as adolescents, then as young women, then as transitional women. What are we calling ourselves these days? And then you get to this point in life, or my point in life, when you're postmenopausal and wondering what's next. Wondering if the parade already passed you by. Join me, Wonder Wendy. I'm going to be your host as we talk about some of these unique challenges that face women today in a new millennium, going through menopause and trying to live a rich, full life. There might even be a few men and younger women that want to listen in too. That's okay. But there's a roller coaster and we're all on it. And I'm going to be your guide to help you figure out when you should close your eyes, when you should hang on, and maybe we'll explore some ideas for what works for you if it doesn't work for me, or vice versa. So join the conversation, pick up your favorite beverage, and we'll talk to you soon. Welcome to the Imperfect Prophet.
So, stick with me here. I had a thought the other day that sent me down a really interesting rabbit hole. So many questions. And as you know, I love to ponder, connect the dots, to find new ways of looking at life. And it started with something really simple. I found myself wondering, when did we start having lifeguards at public swimming places? When did we decide that beaches and pools and lakes should have someone watching, just in case? When did we build lifeguard towers? When did we say, hey, maybe boats should carry life preservers? If you haven't guessed, I'm thinking about water safety, preventing drowning. And here's the thing, those things were not always there. At some point in history, people swam without lifeguards. People boated without life jackets. People went into the water with no system in place to help them if something went wrong. And I don't know where or how things changed, but they did. And it wasn't all at once. It wasn't one grand moment where the world legislated because the world can't agree on anything. It happened gradually, collectively, and we began to recognize there's a risk to going in the water. This matters. We should do something. Now, we couldn't eliminate the water. We couldn't ban swimming. We couldn't mandate life vests be worn 24/7 just in case. We can't tell people water is dangerous, so no one should ever go near it again. Because, well, that would be ridiculous. We need water, not just to drink, but to swim in a pool, to float in an inner tube in the river, to sit and listen to a fountain gurgling in the park. Water is connection and play and freedom and necessary hydration. So what did we do? We created systems. We trained people to watch, and not just the Baywatch beauties. We added protection, like jackets on boats, life jackets. Those rings you can throw into the water to help someone who's drowning. And yet there's an unfortunate truth. People still drown, despite all we've done, despite all we've changed. And there's a daunting reality. One lifeguard can't reach every swimmer. They just can't be everywhere. They can't be on every beach all at the same time, and we don't expect them to. The thing about protection or safety is that we was never meant to depend on one person. Doing everything perfectly is impossible. And I think this is where we as people get stuck. We start to believe we have to solve all of it. And when we realize we can't, or fear that we can't, we stop trying altogether. So let me ask you something. Should we take down the lifeguard towers because they don't prevent every tragedy? Should we get rid of lifeguards? Should we stop providing life jackets? Of course not. Because the goal was never perfection. The goal was to make a difference in whatever way we can. And this right here is an important distinction, because I think we forget this very concept of doing something is better than nothing. Not at the beach, but in the world. Yeah, we look at poverty, homelessness, gun violence, addiction, mental health struggles, the tension and division in modern politics. So many broken systems, so many broken hearts. And we get overwhelmed. Because when we look at these massive, complicated problems, it's easy to believe that there's no way to fix this. There's no perfect solution. This is too big. And once you start thinking that way, it's easy to slide into a spiral. We move from overwhelmed to discouraged, from discouraged to disengaged. I don't want to even hear it. No. Because if we can't fix it completely, what's the point of trying at all? But that thinking forgets something so important. We never required lifeguards to save everyone. We never said, unless you can prevent every drowning, don't bother. And we never expected one person to do it all. Because it takes so many people in many places paying attention. It takes a vested interest, that place in your heart that says, this matters, to help us create something better. When we said, if we can save more people, that matters. Think about that. Our response to a world with so many struggles needs to be the same. We need lots of people pitching in. I have friends who volunteer. I do it too. But I know one who distributes toiletries to the homeless. I have another works on the food shelves. How about Habitat for Humanity? So many people coming together to build new homes for the unhoused. And there are other solutions, other ways to help. And they're still waiting to be created too. Somehow we understand that at the water's edge, we need to do something. We need to be vigilant. We need to make change. But we forget it in the rest of our lives. We expect perfection before we are willing to act. So, what if the work of change is really just about making even the slightest difference? What if the question is not how do we eliminate every problem, but instead how do we help even a little bit? Because that's an important differentiation. If you think you have to be perfect, you can get paralysis. But the other leads to possibility. Every one of us has the ability to make a difference on some level, whether it's changing your attitude, helping a neighbor, using your voice, because no one person, no one program, no one policy can hold it all. Creating change only works when more of us decide to make a difference. And making a difference doesn't always look big. Sometimes it looks very small, almost quiet and ordinary. But it still matters. And that doesn't mean you have to solve everything. Maybe you can't protect the rainforest in South America. I wouldn't even know where to begin to do that. But what if you planted a tree? What if you got your neighborhood to plant more trees so that in 10 years there would be shade on the sidewalk? What if you helped your community create a woodland reserve? All of that helps reduce carbon dioxide and increase oxygen, just like that rainforest in South America does. The possibilities, the solutions are limited only by your imagination. It doesn't have to be grand. It can be small. It can be local. Maybe that solution is right in front of you. Now, those of us born in the 1960s came into a world at a time of horrible uncertainty, a time when the fear of nuclear war became real during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Escalating tensions that would shape the Cold War for decades to come. And for many of us, it didn't feel distant. I grew up just a few miles from a Strategic Air Command Air Force base. There was a quiet underlying belief that nuclear annihilation might actually happen. Even as we moved through the mundanities of high school in the 1980s, we knew that that base just across the lake would be one of the first strikes if the Soviet Union attacked. The 1960s were shaken by the assassination of JFK and so many other leaders. And then the 70s, trust in government was shattered during Watergate and further strained by the questions surrounding U.S. involvement in Vietnam. And yet, despite the fact that that was on the news as I was coming into my own, as I was learning to hear words, we, the kids born in the 60s, are a generation that grew up watching the underdog win. From Miracle on Ice 46 years ago, when a group of young hockey players shocked the world, beating the Soviet Union. And that was a team that had dominated the sport for years, a team many of us believed was unbeatable. And those kids, that scrappy U.S. hockey team, brought home the gold. And then there were movies like Red Dawn, where another scrappy group of high school students fought back against the impossible. Or how about Iron Eagle? Yeah, another movie. It was corny, yes, but unforgettable, where a handful of teenagers took on a mission that seemed completely out of reach, if not insane, but they did it. And even now, you see that same story showing up again. In the recent Netflix phenomenon, Stranger Things, a group of kids facing something bigger than themselves, back in the 80s again, and somehow saving the world. It's the same energy, the same belief that ordinary people can do extraordinary things. Have we forgotten that this was the belief we were raised on? Ordinary people showing up, doing something, refusing to believe that just because something was hard, it was impossible. It's important to remember that. Those stories weren't just entertainment, they were an invitation. They invited us to believe that even when something feels overwhelming, you can still make a difference. Maybe we're not meant to just watch those stories. Maybe we, you and me, are meant to live them. And sometimes it starts with a simple question. What can I do? I remember the year my husband and I got married at a ballpark. Well, it's hard to forget the year you got married, right? But our wedding was unusual. We got married before a professional minor league baseball game. It was an exciting day. And we felt like we were part of the team that day, and the team was there for us. And then later that summer, there was a threat to move the team. And we knew if that happened, that field would likely become something else, a parking lot, a lost piece of our community. So I did something that felt, honestly, a little bit crazy. After spending a little while saying, what can I do? I started a petition. At first, it felt small, maybe even naive, but it caught attention. Local media picked it up. I found myself on television talking about that place, that wonderful baseball park that mattered to our community. Other concerned fans joined in, and we collected thousands of signatures. And in the end, we never even presented the petition. The onslaught of public support caused things to fall into place. The team stayed for another 10 years. And to this day, even though it's not professional baseball, it's now collegiate ball. And that field brings together people every summer. So something that started with, what can I possibly do, was rooted in something that mattered. And that's why something had to be done. And that's the point. Taking action matters. Small things done consistently can change the world. So in your real life, what could that look like? It looks like policies that protect people, programs that support people, interventions that interrupt harm. Maybe it's just a kindness that changes somebody's day. All of that looks like planting seeds of goodness and kindness. It looks like communities that say, I see you. I'm here. You are not alone. Maybe it looks like a friend who checks in, the teacher who notices, the neighbor who pays attention, the leader who says, we may not fix everything, but we can do something. I have a friend who's running for office because he believes that he has a voice that can help. He's kind of like Don Quixote tilting at windmills. He's raised less money than anybody else who's going for the job. But his heart is in the right place. And just being out there demonstrating what positive community leadership looks like, he's making a difference. And something is not nothing. Something can save a life. Something can change a life. Well, and there's another layer to this, because it's not just about helping in the moment. Let's get back to where we started, the idea of drowning prevention, because there was something else we decided along the way. We decided to teach people how to swim, putting in public swimming pools that gave kids access to water so they learned how to swim. There were YMCAs that had swimming programs. Think about that. We didn't just say water is dangerous, so we'll post someone to watch. We also said, let's help people learn how to move through the water. Let's give them the skills so they're not completely dependent on someone else. That matters too. You can't just fix things. You have to change the way we view things. Because a life jacket can help you float, and a lifeguard can help rescue you, but knowing how to swim, that changes everything. You're still aware of the risk, but you're no longer powerless in it. And if you want to go just a little bit deeper, because yes, we need support, we need protection, we need people who show up in moments of crisis, but we also need to be asking, where are we helping people grow? Where are we building skills? Confidence is needed. Resilience, awareness, can we teach that? Where are we giving people the tools to navigate their own lives? How are we exemplifying those tools in our lives so that others can learn? Because real change is not just about saving people in moments of crisis. It's about helping people become stronger before the crisis even comes. And maybe that's the full picture. Making a difference, offering support, creating opportunity, not one or the other, all of it. So today I'm going to leave you with one question. Okay, now I'll leave you with a bunch of questions. Where can you make a difference? Where can you show up? Where can you offer support? Where can you help, even a little? Oh, and also, where can you help someone else grow? You don't have to save everyone, but you can make a difference for someone. When enough of us are paying attention, helping, and showing up, things begin to change. And if something you heard today sparked something in you, whatever that might be, an idea you have that you want to implement, or someone you think needs to hear this message, share it. Send this episode to someone who might need it or be inspired by it. Someone who's exhausted by today's world and they're in that spiral, help them get out of it. Someone who's frustrated and has forgotten what power they hold inside. If anyone who's forgotten they have the power to make a difference, because every single one of us does. Send it to someone who's forgotten that something, anything, still matters. This is exactly how change happens. Not all at once, not by one person, but together. And you might not see all the lives you impact. That doesn't mean it isn't happening. So until next time, stay hydrated. Keep wondering. And keep building a life that is not necessarily perfect, but deeply wonderful. Have a week full of wonder, and I'll look forward to talking to you soon.
Like what you heard here today? Then we should be friends. I suggest you join my Facebook group. It's a good way to connect. We can have a conversation, ask me questions, whatever you want to do. It is called the Wonderful Bucket List Life. That's Wonder-Full Bucket List Life. Be a bucket lister and join me on this adventure. Or you can go to my webpage, which is Wonder Wendy and Friends, join the mailing list, learn about the book I wrote, adventures that are coming up in the future, and other podcasts. I look forward to talking to you soon, and stay hydrated. Have a great day.